It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
All right. I've got a question from Mary. It's about Roth IRA. Okay. She said, is it too late to invest in a Roth IRA? If she's retiring in maybe 5-10 years, her husband is asking, and because they're in their 40s and they've got a 35% savings rate in 3 buckets, which is awesome. But he's asking, is it too late for a Roth IRA?
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Mary, that's a great question. And it's actually one that we get a lot because people know this. We have a deliverable out on our website. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, we have this deliverable called the Wealth Multiplier. One of the things that it shows is that $1 for a 20-year-old can turn into $88. $1 for a 30-year-old by 65 can turn into 23. $1 for a 40-year-old can turn into 7, so on and so forth. So she's saying, hey, you know what? I'm in my 40s, right? I'm going to retire in 10 years, and the wealth multiplier, it's not 88 times ever.
It's not as exciting anymore.
I would argue that's a bit of a flawed point of view, and here's why.
Yeah.
Just because you turn 65 doesn't mean your dollars stop growing. Just because you turn 65 doesn't mean that your wealth multiplier stops multiplying. I would argue that if you are a 40-year-old and you have a life expectancy out into your 80s and 90s, that even dollars that you are putting to work today have the potential and propensity to turn into $88,
That's
right?
True.
So you can still capitalize on that growth. And what's beautiful about Roth IRAs is when it comes to like distribution strategies, right? Now, it's more nuanced than this, but this is like a really general rule of thumb. Roth IRAs tend to be the last bucket you pull from. Now, they can also be sort of this like plug bucket if you're doing some unique tax stuff. But you sort of pull out of all your after-tax assets first, and then you do your tax deferred, and then your Roth bucket is the last one. So if you're in your 40s, I would argue no, absolutely not. It's not too late at all to start putting money into your Roth IRA, because even if you only get 10 years of contributions, and let's say that you turn 50 in there, so it goes from 6 to 7. But I don't do a lot of public math, so I'm going to do easy math here.
Easy math.
Let's say you do $6,000 for the next 10 years. That's 60. Check me on that. Right? Is that right? That's $60,000 that you're able to get into Roth assets. Well, that $60,000 over that 10-year period can still grow for the next 10, 20, 30, even 40 years. And remember, it is a great estate planning tool to pass assets on. So I would argue so long as you can do Roth, you should do Roth. Now here is another thing that you ought to keep into consideration. If you said you're 10 years away from retirement, you've only got 10 years left that you can put money directly into Roth, because one of the things in order to do Roth is you have to have earned income. Retirees can't make direct Roth contributions if they don't have any earned income. Now, when you do retire, there are some conversion strategies that you could likely employ, but the best thing to do is that money that you earn, get that into a Roth. You've got time. Absolutely, unequivocally, no, it is not too late. If you can do Roth and you can let the money sit there for a while to grow for you, I think you should start doing Roth.
It's so true, because when you look at the wealth multiplier, we always talk about, growing till age 65, which is awesome. But it can grow for longer than
past
that. I forget
right?
that
That's
too.
Exactly right.
It's a great reminder and a great optimistic view. I also like that you said, I'm not going to do public math, and then you turned to me and
then
asked me
you
to
to check
math.
my public math. That's fair enough.
But thanks so much for your question, Mary.